Well, hey folks, Fat Guy Flies RC coming to you from the man cave. All right, obviously this is an F-35, so the F-35A, if I remember right. Not the new 110 millimeter F-35 the FREEWING's coming out with. I'm getting my replacement 70 millimeter. As y'all know, crashed my X-Fly. I just clearly stalled it and couldn't recover and obliterated it. But anyways, I can't have I gotta have an F-35 in my hangar. And I should have just gone and repurchased this one in the first place instead of messing with the X-Fly. Well, the X-Fly was okay, but to me, this one has more power. I had this before, and I don't remember if I did an unbox and build with it before, but I'm going to this time. And I just remember this one had more power, and it just seemed to be a little better quality, to lack of a better term. So that's why we're here. Now, as far as the 110 millimeter, the new F-35C that they're coming out with towards the end of the summer, first part of fall, yes, I am in the running to get one. Yes, I've got my name signed up on the list or whatever, but I'll be honest with you, $989, and then you're going to have, two $100 batteries in there on all flights, and then a good $100 or more receiver on top of that, and you're talking $1,200-$1,300 flying around there, and or $1,100 flying around there, and not to mention the size and speeds. I don't know if my field where I fly at can really handle that much. I mean, I'm probably making excuses, but that's just a lot of money. That's just a lot of money. I mean, I may still get it someday, but for now, we'll have to settle with the 70 millimeter F-35. So let's take it out of the box. Let's go over the box and over the parts, and we'll start putting this bad boy together. And like this is the 70 millimeter F-35. I believe this is an F-35A, if I remember right. It has the shorter wings and the smaller tail feathers. Alrighty, and as usual, all FREEWING products are packed wonderfully, with no problem whatsoever. This is an older model. It's not new. It's been out for quite a while. I flew the dog mess out of my first one. I ended up selling it, and then, like I do with a lot of my models, I regret selling it. I wish I never had, and so that's why I tried the X-Fly, and well. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that is a nice airplane. The X-Fly one is nice, but I like this one better. That's just personal preference. Nice nose cone. And like with all these models, your pieces you can see the foam, but you can't feel it. Good quality. But that's what FREEWING puts out. They put out a good quality product. Every piece protected in its own little baggie. The elevators or horizontal stabilizers. I mean, all you're going to need is a Phillips head screwdriver to put the entire model together. I think 12 screws all the way around. Okay, I do have some water slide decals, I guess you can apply. I probably won't apply those. They're awfully small. All right. Don't think I did on the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and take this wing out. Just as usual. I mean, very nice finish. Of course, it'd be nice if it had lights, but it's an older model. 4 screws gets it done, or 2 screws per wing. Got to hook up your aileron. It is a pinch hinge, but it is a quality pinch hinge. There may be some laminate in there. Yep, there's a little bit. All right. All right, we'll get the other wing out here in just a second. This is a small enough box. I didn't feel the need to do the downward view. I mean, you come in here and everything is packed really well. Got 2-part coffin here. Alright. Each of your vertical stabilizers, otherwise known as rudders. I'm going to open up one of the rudders here. You'll have to hook up your rudders, no big deal. There again, you've got a pinch hinge. Not much lighting in here. Anyways, you got yourself a nice pinch hinge. It looks nice. Yeah, F-35, AF1. I guess that's the squadron it's part of. Very nice. Very, very nice. Always look in every, see? Now, if people get these and they wonder what these are actually hinges. They're hinges. I've never used them, but they're little pinch hinges, little nylon hinges. I don't know if the newer FREEWING models are including them or not. I do not know. I haven't seen them in a while, so maybe not. Nothing in there. And this model is, to me, is significantly larger than the X-Fly version. This one is a lot larger. I wish I'd had the old fuselage with me and I could have done a comparison, but this is much larger. All right. Now, one thing that the X-Fly version has over this one is the tail cone, or the exhaust tube on this one, is just made of foam. All right, that's made of foam. All right. The one on the X-Fly is all hard plastic. Now, they've done something that I don't remember being on the last one. They've got this like skid fin here. That way when you take off, or you have it sitting on the ground without a battery in it, it tilts down. Yeah, that's hard plastic there. I don't remember that being on the last one. So that's a nice addition. That's one of them subtle improvements that FREEWING will do without making a big deal or even making the announcements. They'll just make them, they know it needs to be improved, they'll just improve it and send it out. So that's a nice improvement. Very much nicer decal than the X-Fly. A much nicer cockpit than the X-Fly. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see in there. Yeah. Yeah, this is, and of course everything's labeled for you. Got your thrust reversing, rudder, land gear, throttle, aileron, and elevator. Everything is laid out nice and pretty. I'll be using my thrust reverse, but I will not be using nose wheel gyro because I'm going to be installing a 6-channel receiver. So you need your 5 channels, and then the 6th channel would be for thrust reverse. Really nice inside here. It's laid out. We run a 4000 or a 5000. Probably run a 4000 6S in this one. So, and of course we will be installing a KM model Afterburner version 5. Now when you go to put this together, remember you got to pull your wires out. Oh, and they put locking. They now have locking servo leads on this one. They didn't on the last one. Alrighty, let's get the rest of these parts out. We'll go over them and then we'll start putting this together. Alrighty, we're back. Alright, now go ahead and get your fuselage on, get it on a good quality, stand. Alright, if you look in here, you've got some tape covering some servos, and they've just painted over it. You're going to want to peel this tape back, and that's going to reveal your rudder servo connector. Okay, let's go ahead and then pull that out. If you can get a hold of it. Pay attention, you know, you got your polarity there. Well, the yellow is your light wire. You're going to pay attention to that. All right, same thing over here. You're going to want to take a sharp knife or something, just kind of get a hold of that tape. Pull that tape up out of there. And that'll reveal your servo connection. All right, now, like I said, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver to do everything. And in your kit, you've got two kinds of screws. Now, those larger, bulkier, wood-looking screws are for your wings. And then these other 8 is for everything else. This is what we're going to be using now, these smaller ones. Okay. Let's go ahead and open them up. And they are magnetic. That's why I love using magnetic trays. Okay. Now, this is the top side, so pay attention to how you're going to drop in your rudder, or vertical stabilizers, so the wording, lettering should be to the outside. But you're going to go ahead and hook this up. If you notice, pay attention to polarity. It's always, the connection is always going to be light to light, dark to dark. Okay. I'm glad they got locking servo connections now. That has little, doesn't really have a click in, but the yellow wires are now running with each other parallel. You got the light to light, dark to dark. Okay. All right, and then you're going to just let that tuck back in there, and then you got the 2 screw channels, and that's just going to fit down. And it sits in there by pressure. Okay, I mean it's in there by pressure. All right, so go ahead and grab your other rudder or vertical stabilizer. Paying attention to polarity. Going to hook them up. Light to light, dark to dark. No matter how the servo, who makes it, it's always going to be. Now that one's snapped in. Light to light, dark to dark. And you've got enough room to tuck your wires in there. Nothing should pinch. They should just fall right into place. Okay. Nice quality model. Okay. And they're in there by pressure. Go ahead and turn your model over. Okay. This is where the plane stand here basically makes it where you can get to things easier and saves your back. You're going to take 2 on each side of your rudder. Use a magnetic screwdriver if you can, and then just drop that puppy down in there. Uh-oh. Sometimes it doesn't line up right. Now I'm supporting that rudder on the bottom side with my hand. And I'm feeling this piece being drawn up in there. And this is where you want to just use your finger. Finger tight. Don't over tighten it. It's nice and snug. You'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell. Drop that in there just like so. Should go right in that hole. There, that time it did. Get it nice and tight with your finger. I'm feeling this piece, bottom piece being pulled up in there, that rudder being pulled up in there, and just finger tight, okay? That's in there, okay? I'm going to get this where I can kind of see it, and we're going to do the other side over here. Very simple model to put together. That one didn't line up right. Don't feel right. If it don't feel right, change it. I want to support this. I'm feeling that piece being drawn up in there. I can feel that rudder being drawn up in there. There, finger tight. Just the strength of your fingers on the tip will be just the right amount of pressure. Once you feel it bottom out, Yeah. All right, there you go. Now, those are in there, and they're not going anywhere. Nice and secure. Now you're going to try, it's time to put on your vertical stabilizers, or your horizontal stabilizers. The ball link side is going to go down, because this is going to go so quickly. Just let that hang in there like that. Because you're on the underside right now, these ball links should line up. Okay. And this is the same procedure. Because you're going, screwing into that right there. Nice heavy duty hinge. Now a lot of people have a hard time flying this model. I did not at first. I mean, I did at first because it was one of my newer first jets that I ever had, which was a mistake. But it's not a hard jet to fly now. Not for me, anyways. But there, very obvious bottoming out point. And once it hits, and just use your fingertips to tighten. My point was, I miss flying it, and I miss having it. And the biggest problem people have with it is it's very, very twitchy. I mean, it's a short, stubby wing plane, and it's very, very twitchy. So you don't want to have these ailerons. You want 60% on the ailerons. That's pretty much it. That should be your high, 60%, because they're very, very touchy. Let that just hang there. Okay. Uh-oh. 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 Make sure you always drop a piece of your plane. That way you get a nice dent somewhere. Part of the procedure. Yep. See? I just did that by dropping it. I'm like a bull in a china shop, so why do I... The things I shouldn't be doing is RC planes because of little intricate things like this. And what do? I drop it. All right. Go there like that. Finger tight. And it's misaligned, so I'll have to, that's why it's rubbing on this side. I have to back off a little bit. Okay, that way I can push this side in. You do have a little bit of wiggle room. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay. Tighten that one back up. There you go. And they should be free like that. All right, just continue on with this very simple model. All right. Go ahead and pull out your wing connector, servo lead. You know, kind of pay attention to the, they kind of get a little overspray, but this is clearly the yellow side. Slide in your wing spar. If you ever have a wing spar that doesn't quite want to slide in, you can put a little bit of baby powder on them or use a twisting action. Sometimes that'll help. Okay, obviously it's not going to be this wing, because you're going to want to see the servo side down. Line up with your hole for your wing. Okay, same thing, light to light, dark to dark. It's always going to be the polarity, light to light, dark to dark. And I don't have it. Gotta turn it over. Nope, I did have it. This is where the paint overspray, you had to pay attention. Light on that side, light on this side. Okay. If you just remember that rule, light to light, dark to dark, feed your excess wire in that hole there. Let that line up. Just let it just right on in there. If you don't make nothing pinched. And there goes your wing. Now this is where you're going to be using these 4 bulkier screws. And this model is small enough by Wingspan model that you don't need to be taking it apart. I mean, really, it's not that big of a model. All right, now when you're putting wings together, I like to get one in to hold it in place. Now, it's not wanting to go in there straight. Okay, because sometimes they don't line up, so I'll put one as a pivot point and then pull this one in. But this one's pretty good. If they don't line up, sometimes though you do, they use one as a pivot and the other one to tighten down. All right. I can feel the crease on the underside against my finger down here lessening. So I know that, there you go. I know it's bottomed out. Finger tight. That wing's on there. Okay, turn your model over, or however way you need to get to it. This is where this is where the plane stand, just a big saver for your back. Pull your servo lead out. Pay attention to which side is the light side. Okay, spin the wing a couple of times, I guess. Line up on your wing spar. Slide your wing in. Make your connection, light to light, dark to dark. If you don't do it right, it won't work, and you'll think, what a stupid model. Light to light, dark to dark. I cannot say that enough. Run your wires inside there, fish them in, push your wing on home, and just so you know, you won't have any screws left over. So don't lose these. You don't want to be like me and have a natural screw loose anyways. Ha ha ha. Okay. Almost bottom out. Don't we use that as a pivot point? Oh, about to lose that screw. Okay. Okay, pull that, because I don't have this one tightened up yet. I'm going to pull this wing in on that pivot that I've made. Now I've got that lined up. I'm putting my hand on this crease on the underside, feeling that crease in the wing where the wing and the fuse touch lessen as it tightens in the screw. And I'm going to come back here and tighten this bad boy here up. Same thing, I'm feeling that crease lessen. Alrighty. Now I don't hook up any control surfaces until I've applied power and bound up the airplane. That way I know that all my servos are centered. But everything's hooked up now. And then, like them elevators, they should be flapping freely right there. Okay. All right. Now we turn our attention. You can go ahead and put your battery hatch back on. Okay. Nice tongue and groove. Okay. And now we turn our attention to the most horrible part, most detailed and tedious part of the build. That was touch and go. I know I use that same corny joke every time. Okay, well, outside of installing my receiver in the KM model afterburner, she's all put together basically. I'm going to go ahead and do those things. I'm going to show you where I'm going to install my receiver. Now obviously everything, the battery will be back up here. I'll probably be trying to put the battery back as far. Probably going to mount my receiver. Well, there's a nice little hard plastic place right there. Mount that, run my wire or my antenna up front, and that way I'll give me plenty of room for my battery. Probably running a 4,000 or a 5,000. This right here, from what I understand, now I could be wrong, like I say, you got an EC5, is if you want to run the FREEWING brand afterburner, they give you that plug. I'm assuming this is what I've understood. I could be wrong, but anyways, and the receiver I'll be putting in, this one is an AR631 Spectrum receiver. So a little dark in here, I'm sorry. Well, there you go. We'll be right back in just a moment. I'll have her all lit up and bound up, and we'll go over the basic bench trim and show it how everything looks and how everything works and everything, and then we'll take it out in the field and we'll fly it for you. All right, see you in a little bit. All righty, we're back. Got her all put together. All right, got the got a KM model version 5 inside there. All right, got, see how the gear work? Very fast, what, 2-second delay? Okay. And nice suspension gear. All right, let's go over our rates. Oh, real quick, one thing you have to do when you're setting this up and you're hooking up your elevators, you have to have, and it's not hard, the best way of setting the neutral trim is that when you look at these elevators right here, okay, the top of this just needs to go with the top of the fuse. Okay, right there where the fuse is, the top of the elevator, as long as it lines up and you got just a little bit of that curved dip down, that's what you want. That all needs to be level. If you do it on both sides, you're perfect for your neutral trim. All right, so let's go over how everything looks. So the settings, I actually went pretty close by the book, especially with the ailerons. I told you in the build that I was only going to go 60. But I started looking at the manual, and the manual calls for 80 as the high on the ailerons. So that's not, I got fairly close. What I did with my high ailerons, I believe I went with 70. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me make sure of that. I don't want to be lying to you. Yeah, my high on ailerons is 70 with 40% expo. Everything else by the book. Elevator 100% with 40% expo. Okay, and then the rudders are 100%, and I did 50% expo on them. Not going to have a nose wheel gyro. I mean, I could either have a nose wheel gyro or I could have thrust reverse, because that's the open channel. So I chose thrust reverse. I might change it, but the only thing I've noticed is that, and maybe it's just me, but the paint job on this seems to be a little more distinct than the first one I had. And of course it's got that skid fin down there for whenever you land and you're taking off. The other thing is that I've noticed is they have the locking quick connects on the servos, and they didn't have that on the first one. They were just regular servo connections. CG is 32 millimeters back, and if you look for that first bend right there, 32 millimeters back. I've got me some hot glue dots that I put on there. That's what I like to do with a lot of my models, especially when just one CG, not a variance. 32, let's see, if I don't even know if I've got that right, because where I've got my battery. I got a 4000 Sokokin in there, and it feels like it's trying to be nose heavy. So let me push that back just a touch. You've got plenty of room inside the bay. Let me move this back, get the CG, and then I'll show you the inside. You got room to move your batteries around a little bit. And yeah, I'm a Velcro guy. A lot of people like that shelf liner and stuff. I like Velcro. Velcro and strap. I mean, I don't mind fighting, taking the battery out, because I want to know that battery ain't coming. I've had a battery come flying out before during flight, and there's nothing you can do. You've lost all power. You're just going to try to, the best thing you do is try to keep an eye on where the thing dropped so you can go find the wreckage. All right, move that battery back now. And what I'm kind of wanting, well, now I got too far. A little too much. I mean, I want to level to just favor nose heavy, or tail heavy. Just barely favoring it. All right, let's see how that does. And I'll show that to you. And this is with a 4000, so wherever if I go with a smaller battery, I'll come a little further forward, like maybe a 3800. If I go with a 5000, I'll go a little bit further back. All right, let's see where that is. That's That's looking pretty good right there. All right, so let me show you where that is. And that's where I've got the 4000 inside there. Okay, real quick, while I'm here, before I forget, I want to mark that. Okay, what did I do? There's my... All right, that's why I love Sharpies. I want to mark that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little... Look at the edge of the battery there. I'll make a little mark. Okay, and I'm going to write on here 4K. 4K and point an arrow back. And then that way I know that's my baseline. That way I know that 4K back is over the 4000. If I need to go, if I'm a little bit bigger, I can push the battery a little bit further back. If it's lighter, smaller battery, I can come a little bit forward. But all right, the only thing I'm going to do now that you'll see at the field during the main, here's my Sharpie, is I'm going to give her a clear coat. The polyacrylic mid wax, which I have a can here somewhere. Yeah, right here. It's clear gloss. It's this product right here. And all I'm going to do is tape off or protect the canopy and then spray the whole thing. Just get a nice, one good layer on there is all you really need. And about every year or so, do it again. Just don't get too much in the hinges. Especially if you're brushing it on, it's cheaper if you brush it on, but you'll have a tendency to try to get too much in the hinges, and when that happens, it'll gum up and it actually could break your hinge, and you definitely don't want to do that. But it does protect. It's kind of like a good sealant on your car's paint is what this is. It also protects the foam from your fingernails and picking it up and just normal handling damage. So, all right, well, there you go. That is, and this canopy fits a whole lot nicer than the X-Fly version. But we're going to get out to the field and get you a maiden, and there you go. So God bless y'all. And don't forget, faith, family, and friends, Jesus is Lord, and F-35s from FREEWING, 70 millimeters. Bye-bye.